Hi, good afternoon, and thanks for joining us on OY Media this afternoon. As we've earlier mentioned on our Facebook page, we'll be connecting with an event that is going on some of the narratives of FGM. But shortly before then, we've got with us today Miss Wura Ogunrotimi. She's someone that you know very well. She's one of our presenters for the Understanding Scottish social works policy, how it works. So, and she's joining us today. She's one of the organizers, and she will let us into further information about the program that is already ongoing. You're welcome, Ms. Wura.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you.
Okay, great. So we are here. The event that is going on right on now, you are one of the organizers. What is the event about?
So the event is to mark the zero tolerance. It's part of the zero tolerance day, the FGM zero tolerance. So the zero tolerance day is every 5th of February, and it was actually, funny enough, it was actually pioneered by the late First Lady Stella Obasanjo, and it was just to raise awareness about FGM, the impact of it, and also to look at where we've come so far, and maybe just the journey so far, the success, the hiccups, and the narrative, because we have the global South and the global West. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And then coming right on to particularly about this event, the one that is going on today, more like a mini conference, so discussion about how the narrative of the FGM has adversely affected the people from the ethnic minority, especially the African communities. Can you give us a brief into that?
Yeah. So this program is actually being hosted by a group called Hidden Voices. Now, the Hidden Voices is an organization. Well, it's a protest group, but mainly led through the voice of families who've been impacted or affected by the FGM safeguarding policies and procedure. So I would will it make sense if I just quickly touch up on what that is?
Yeah, that would be very helpful.
Okay, so the FGM safeguarding policy and procedure is basically is this government response to ensuring that every child from the age of 0 to 18, in Scotland's case, the age of 0 to 16, obviously, is safe, and parents are aware of the impact of FGM, and also to ensure that no child is going to be, the procedure will not be carried out on any child on the soil of the United Kingdom. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And in particular, and this is really talking about the African community. Like we said, the people that are organizing today believe that the narrative has adversely affected the African child.
Yeah.
How did we reach here?
So what has happened was, when the whole FGM safeguarding policy came to be, policy and procedure came to be, there is a lot of questions around it, because originally when the whole safeguarding thing started, it stirred up from the Somali families who have, so there are different types of FGM, and usually the type 3 upward is the most severe one, because it's very like an infringed one. So most of the activists who spoke up at the time, it was mainly, I wouldn't even say activists, so to say. I think it was families who were impacted by it, or women who had FGM. There were people who came from their own countries, who those procedures were already done on them, and we had hospitals that they helped them to do a corrective surgery, to reopen the women and help them for their privates to be opened properly. Now, over the time, obviously with the safeguarding measures in United Kingdom, over the time, at first it was helpful to have women from those communities come out and talk about, because obviously we're catching them. They were actually picking up on these women during childbirth or when they were ready to have their babies, which at that time was good because it was meant to encourage the women to come up and speak about their private at the time, their genitals, so that they could have corrective surgery in preparation for them having children. But unfortunately, after people have come innocently, to have this safe way of talking about things, unfortunately, the system ended up targeting families. And that was done through misleading narratives. So you have people who would come up and tell their own story of how FGM was done to them. So most people, they would say it was done to them when they were young. Some people, it was in the hospital, their medical way of doing it as well. And it was okay at the beginning because it was, the main thing, like I said, was to encourage people to come speak about their experiences. And some of them were getting psychological help because they had traumas and stuff. But over the time, at the same time as well, there's been the safeguarding system is quite robust, that FGM cannot happen on the soil of United Kingdom. Because remember, when these women are coming to tell their story, they are not telling their story as of having FGM done to them when they are adults. They were talking about FGM being done to them when they were children. So on one hand, it's nice that they are coming out to speak, but on the other hand, it's like the system is capitalizing on the stage at which they did the FGM. But remember, like I said, these women were migrant families who had come into the country. They've already had FGM done in their country. So it wasn't done on the soil of United Kingdom. And what that happened was, with the safeguarding policy and FGM safeguarding policy and procedure, it was an automatic thing, because people who were coming at the forefront, people within the community who were activists, quote and unquote, were coming out to say, you know what, a woman who has done FGM definitely would do it to her child. But they were not even asking narrative from those women. There was just an assumption that it would be done on the women, that the women would do it to their children. So that brought about robust questioning. So for instance, I'm sure some of the viewers online, if you've had FGM done on you, it's natural that, the midwives, they will speak to you about FGM. They will speak to your children. They will find out that you're not doing FGM on your children. Then also there's this thing called the cutting season. I think that's mainly in the Eastern and Southern Africa. But Africa, like we all know, is a very big continent. It's got 54 or 58 countries. Now, because of one single narrative, every African is classed as being a risk to doing FGM for their children, even though there is no proof that FGM is done to children here in the UK. Now, while I'm saying that there is no proof, I know some people would say, after all, we've had convictions of FGM. Now, I'm being very careful in talking about that, because I know I'm quite privy to more information with regards to the conviction. But due to single story narrative and misleading information, it has led to convictions, and it has also led to families being stigmatized. I think about 3 years ago, if we all remember, there was a family in Bristol, in England, who got into trouble because an FGM key worker, so to say, apparently had a conversation with this taxi driver, who he claimed that the taxi driver had informed him that he was going to do FGM on his child. But when they actually unpicked that conversation, it turned out that that was not true. It went to court, the man challenged it, the families, again, it was targeting the family. So these FGM safeguarding policies and procedure have been seen to be racist, because for me, being an African, and anybody listening is an African, if you have a daughter and you're going out of the country, particularly in summer, for those of us who have little children, maybe children between age of 0 to 16, during summer, if you're traveling with your children, the chances of you being stopped at the airport to educate you about FGM or to question you about FGM, that chance is really high. because there's a misleading narrative that summer is a time that FGM is done on children. But the thing is, they're not even asking, what country are you from? Where is this prevalence coming from? So there's a lot of misunderstanding, and families have been destroyed. Families have been torn apart. Like for the ones who have been, who've ended up being convicted and put in jail, you know, there are questions around how, you know, the evidence that was produced. And also, we also need to remember that there is a funding act of it, where community-led organizations, some community-led organizations, you know, they've come up to say, oh, we're working with our community, we're teaching them about FGM, you know, we're educating them on how to stop FGM. But then they've never been able to produce evidence, factual evidence of FGM happening in United Kingdom. And also, when we look at the database, I know some people, again, will touch on, in the UK, you know, they said over 250 Africans, 250,000 Africans are impacted with FGM. But the question is, who are those 250,000? Because there is nowhere, the data does not show that Africans have had FGM on the soil of United Kingdom. Instead, what the data is showing is Caucasian females who are having genital piercing or having liposurgery done. You know, for those of, you know, I don't want to be so explicit about it, but these database are not collected on Africans. It's actually collected by Caucasians. The NHS has come out openly. I mean, the informations are there. You can go on Freedom of Information Act to ask for these documentations. The data collected are strictly data of Caucasians, white, British, Scots, who had had their liberal surgery done on them. They've done it in the NHS because it's done in NHS. You can do it on NHS. You can go private about it. But again, you know, it's not. There is no African that has done that, and there is no record anywhere on United Kingdom soil that has shown that FGM has been carried out on the soil of United Kingdom. So because of that, families have been coming up. So for the past 5 years now, we've been working with families who have come to speak about FGM, the impact of FGM on them. Well, the impact of the FGM safeguarding policies, where families have been refused to go to their home countries. For instance, like last year, there were a couple of families who reached out to Hidden Voices, and they were actually stopped at the airport from traveling to their home countries. Now, one thing is, traveling to Africa is not like traveling to any country in Europe where you can go for weekends. So most people, when they're traveling to Africa, you know, because of the finance, you need to think of the money for the fuel. You need to think of the flight ticket. You need to think. So there are a lot of things to think. So it's not something you just carry your bag and travel abroad. You know, you've got to plan it way ahead. And families are being stopped at the airport from going. Yeah. So on today's program, on today's event that we're doing today, families are going to be speaking about they're going to be having direct conversations on the impact of FGM. Then there's a report that has been published recently by Forward UK that has actually attested and confirmed that, you know, there's evidence to show that African families are being targeted, and the FGM safeguarding law is discriminatory and racially profiling our community. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Wura Ogunrotimi. We'll go ahead and join the meeting just now. We don't want to also to lose out as one of the organizers, and I'm sure that maybe after the event itself, we'll have time to come back to really discuss this in full.
Okay.
Just to probably look at the way forward, both for parents, community leaders, community workers, and of course the general ethnic community that are affect this narrative. So thank you very much for to join with us today, and we'll catch up with you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Right, listeners, we're just going to join the ongoing event. We'll be right back to continue by 4 p.m. UK time. Thanks for staying on with us.
You guys hear her? Hello. A bit low. That's better. Is that better? Yes, that's better. Thank you. Hi, Samuel.
It's really heartbreaking, to be honest, because I think we're going through a time where, where FGM, as far as we're concerned, is part of our community, and it seems like, it's come back up, and it's come back not in a very nice way. And hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Sorry, it's somebody else.
Yeah, I didn't move. I only hear you.
Hi, can you mute yourself, Samuel, please? Actually, I'll mute you, it's okay. Right, carry on. Sorry.
Hi. So I was just saying, to go through this now again, when we're very clear that, the community has moved on and they've come a long way through education, and understanding, even from an Islamic perspective, this is not allowed. So, for us now to, get insulted and, be told, we've got these new laws that have come in, this is really, really, shameful and ironic, really. So, to the community, if I'm honest with you, I was very surprised how things are going so fast. They're really, really, they're happening very quickly. And new laws and new changes, and a lot of the community members are not really aware of, exactly the laws and what their rights are. So I think, the more, people like yourselves in this room are more active and informing people, on what their rights are, because I think a lot of people are not actually aware of their rights. So I think, and so what happened at one point, I was off on a Friday, and I had a young lady who I knew from the community who knocked my door. She was in such a state, in a shock. She was traveling back home to Somaliland on the Monday, and this was the Friday. And what happened was she took her daughter for immunization, and her daughter was about 6 or 7, and to the health centre, and to see the nurse, and just while they were chatting, the nurse asked, "Oh, are you going away?" And the young girl was very excited and said, "Yes, I'm going to Hargeisa, to Somaliland. Going to be seeing my family." Blah blah blah. But then once the nurse, said, "All right," so she was asking all these questions, and just a normal conversation, and then the little girl got a little bit worried about the vaccination when she saw the needle. So her mother said, "Oh, if you don't have, your vaccination, you will not be, you won't be going anywhere. You need the vaccination, it protects you." That was it. She had a vaccination. The girl got a little bit, anxious, naturally, as children do when they see needles. Then the next day, she had a telephone call from social services to say they would be calling. So this was the Tuesday. On the Wednesday, she had a telephone call from social services to say that we need to see you because we've got concerns. You're traveling to Somaliland, and we believe you're going to do FGM, practice FGM on your daughter. And she said, "I beg your pardon. Yes, we've had a report, from the nurse we went to see yesterday, and she has concerns." They came out, done a house call then, I think on the Wednesday afternoon, and she sort of explained that she hasn't had FGM. She doesn't believe in the practice. This is an old practice. Not many people, that she's aware of. The practice is, dated really, and it's not something, a lot of people have moved away from it. She was quite practicing Muslim, so she explained the religious part, and this was not allowed, and this was an old practice. They went, off they went, the social worker was satisfied, she left. Then the next day, she gets another call from the social worker again to say, Bowser they want to do another visit because Bowser will need to be there as well. And they're a charity. I think they have some funding to do FGM work. So she said, okay, so they both come out. So then what was really alarming is she said the attitude had changed. The social worker who she found quite respectful, quite, really, really understanding, who was really, really understanding. And, she believed my friend. However, when Bowser came in, it seemed like it wasn't that same social worker she had seen, the day before. And Bowser were like, these practices happen. We know, women cover these things. They started asking very inappropriate questions. Like, for example, who is she visiting? Will she be leaving her daughter with the family members? If she goes out, what if the FGM is done to her? Can you imagine they take her somewhere else and she's not going to be aware of it? Starting putting so many different obstacles, which were not even, something you would even think of. It was so worrying and alarming that, what was coming out of, their mouths, really. And she said, no, like I told you yesterday, I don't believe in the practice. It wasn't done to me. My mother didn't believe in it. We're not going to be doing this. They went away, and then on the Thursday, sort of late, about 5, 6 o'clock, the social worker said, we're very happy, and convinced that, you're not going to be doing anything, we won't be bothering you again, and thank you very much. That was the Thursday afternoon. On the Friday, around 12 o'clock, she gets another call from the social worker to just say, you've got a court case at 2 o'clock. You need to arrive, you need to come to Cardiff Family Court at 2 o'clock. Why? Why do I need to come to court? Well, she said, you need to come to court because, we need to look at, we've got very serious concerns. What do you mean? No, you just need to come to court. She would not elaborate on why she needs to go to court. So that's when my friend was, she's a single mother. She's, she's a very vulnerable person as well. She's got anxiety and, mental health. So she's quite fragile anyway. And she's gone through, domestic abuse and things in the past. She's trying to, build her family and, trying to look after her children. And then there was all this pressure. She knocked my door just out of desperation. And she was, she was in a state. I said, what's wrong? She was like, she couldn't even talk. It was really, really disturbing. And I was just so shocked when she kept telling me. My mum said, I said, what do you mean? She said, they just ran, it was literally 12:30. What do you mean 2 o'clock at the court? How could they? Because she was travelling on the Monday, they wanted to get an FGM order in place, a protection order in place. So they said, you're not able to travel, you're not able to go anywhere, you need to attend court. Well, she was in such a state. I tried to phone the social worker, and I said to the social worker, what is going on? You've been just so inconsistent with the advice and everything. What is actually going on? And she was like, no, she's got to come to court. We were, this Bowser were the ones who insisted that it went to court. So I said, is Bowser the social, the responsible social worker, or is it yourself? She said, it's myself. I said, if Bowser, if you're happy and you were satisfied, why is Bowser dictating to you? I said, I don't understand. She said, no, she wouldn't have it. She said, you just need to come to court. We turned up at court with the social worker and her manager. And we got in there, they were very, we've got to sign these papers. I said, we're not signing anything. We are not signing anything. We want to know what's going on. We want a proper explanation why we're here. We get to the court. The judge was there. The council's legal representative was there. There were a few different people. And, she could not even talk. This young woman was very, very vulnerable. She went into a panic. She had a panic attack and just went into, she just couldn't stop crying. And, I said, so I explained, and I said, she's in a state, the mess. So the judge asked for them to explain themselves why, and Bowser weren't actually, they didn't attend court. So I explained to the judge, I said, this is what happened, blah, blah. We need an explanation. You know, everybody was satisfied. And now, because of Bowser saying they wanted to go to court, I said, why is she sent to court? Because Bowser have said, I said, I don't understand. So they were asked, but you know, the young girl, she was traveling on Monday, and because she was traveling, felt she had to sign that order, because otherwise she was allowed to travel. Even though I said to her, you know, I wouldn't sign it, but the choice was hers. She said, if I don't sign, I won't be able to go away. I need a break from here. And this has just added to a lot of my, you know, a lot of the problems that I have. And I don't really need this. So, you know, she signed the order, and then she was able to travel on the Monday. You know, it's so sad, really. And this is what's happening to, you know, our ladies. This is really sad, and you know, it's really disturbing. I was quite disturbed by it, to be honest. And ever since that day, I've been quite active, really, because I think we all have a responsibility to sort of, you know, challenge the systems, these, you know, racial profiling, and you know, the systems that they're putting into place. It's just unacceptable. That's me done.
Thank you very much for sharing your friend's story. How is she now? Was she taken off the protection order or not?
No.
But she was able to travel with her daughter.
Yes, she was. And because she signed that order.
So when she came back, have they done any checks?
Nothing.
Oh, so why is she still on the order?
Muna,
Yes.
Muna, some of the women, they get put on a FGM order with a travel ban or without a travel ban.
Okay.
Yeah, so they can, if they get the one without the travel, without the travel ban, they can probably still travel, but they have to inform the local authority and the police, like maybe 14 days or something before travel.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so then, and then they can they can interview them later when they come back. So it depends which one they have given you, but at the end of the day, it's something, it's on, you know, it's on them. I think the next lady, we want her to share her story is the lady in Birmingham, because they've, I don't know if Layla is there yet. Oh, right, so Layla's on. If Layla can, if she can tell a story, because she can tell the story, Layla, now. So, could you see Layla, Mona?
Yeah, hi everyone.
Oh, hello.
Mona.
Hi.
Thank you so much for the invite. Thank you very much. My name is Layla from Birmingham. I would like to share you the story with my sister. And what happened to us was my sister had 2 children, and she had 2 daughters, 11-year-old and 2-year-old. Her husband was back home, so she was applying a visa for her husband for so long, and she's been refused it. So what happened was the Home Office said that your husband will not allow him to come to this country, but he can support you back home. So my sister decided to take the children to Somaliland and see if they like it and if they can build a life in there. So they went back and stayed there for 6 weeks. And her older one and older daughter, she loved it, and she was like, I'm going to stay here. Bear in mind, her daughters are different fathers, because her younger one's father is the one that she married to that time. Her older one, she met her family, she met everybody back home, she loved it. Because she cannot support 2 children in UK, because she'd been single mother before, she decided to go back. The day she came back to UK, we had a phone call, and somebody was asking my sister's name to my other sister, and they said, we're looking for your sister. And she said, my sister's not, she's in the country. They said, oh, she's coming tomorrow. And she said, no, she's here already. And they said, we need your sister to come to the school. Two of my sisters and my younger sister, who came back to the country at that time, went to the school. And there was 2 policemen in the school. And bear in mind, her older daughter, she finished the school that time, and she started year 7 in another school. We don't know why this school got involved. We don't know what happened. And they say, we got court order. It's like, huh? What? Why? And they say, because we had a phone call, somebody saying that you are doing FGM to your daughters. And you have to hand your passport. And it was so shocking. My sister came to the country that day, didn't even sit down, and all this happening within less than 24 hours. They said we have to go and collect the kids from back home, otherwise they're going to get custody for my sister. They're taken to custody to my sister. Everybody was shocked, the whole family. We have to raise money, we have to get the girls into the country within 2 days. Came back, bring the girls to UK. They told us, they were training us, there were social services, there were people coming in and out, there were people transporting us, there were people doing a lot of things. We didn't understand what's going on. We never experienced anything like it, or never seen anybody who's talking about anything like it. So lack of experience and lack of knowledge, it just kills you. What happened was, we said we're going to get the kids. We already brought the kids to the country. We getting the kids from the airport. They said, you're not allowed to do that. The police is going to pick up the kids. We said, it's only a small baby. She's going to get scared. And they said, no, we're not allowed you to get the kids. 2 social workers went to the Heathrow airport to collect the kids. The younger one was screaming. The other one was so shocked and scared. They brought her to the house, and they saying that they cannot be with their mother. They have to put them in foster care. I get the custody for the girls. I get the legal stay for the girls on that time. I say, I'm going to look after them. But I said to them, 2-year-old child who is this hysterical, she was very upset. I said, can we not allow the mother to be with them? Because the kids are not in harm in any way. We have no problem with the kids, the mother to be with them. So they said, okay, but it's going to be my responsibility. If anything happened to those children, it's going to be my responsibility. My kids are in risk. So this is important, the whole family in that time. And the next day, they make an appointment in Children's Hospital, Birmingham Children's Hospital. We took the girls. The younger one, we couldn't even hold her down. There was 2 nurses, there was two doctors tried to check the girls inside. The doctor was a senior doctor who was amazing doctor. He interviewed my niece, the older one. He said to them, he said to the social services, because there was 2 social workers were there that time with us. And he said to them, for what I can see, this child, she even heard of FGM rather than being practiced about it. My children have been practiced. I've come from a big family, and my generation from 35-year-old, from the youngest, from 35 to the babies now, we never had FGM. We stopped it. Like, that's been happening for so long, like my age, I'm 40-year-old woman. And people who is after me never had FGM in my family. We proved that. We had all the signatures, we had everything, but they did not listen. So he checked all of the girls and he said, there's nothing. The girls are. And they said, okay, they did not stop there. We have to go to court. When we went to the court, my sister couldn't talk, she couldn't speak, she had anxiety, she had depression, she had so many problems with her. I was the one who was dealing with everything. The only thing she wanted is to see her daughters. The social service said that, okay, we are satisfied, there's no problem with our side, so we'll let you go. Now, the people who are involved with this is the police. So the police said that we're taking the passport for the girls, so they banned to leave the country. I was pregnant at that time, and I was so stressed that day when we had the verdict and they said that they're taking the passports for the girls. I was crying for 24 hours and I lost the baby. I had a miscarriage. And when we went to the hospital, the doctors were like, you are so stressed, what's going on? I said, you have no idea what's going on with me and my whole family. The young girls in the family were the whole family, it was just something that I don't wish for anybody. My sister's got 2 daughters. She had another baby now, and her baby, she's not allowed to leave the country. Even if she supplied the passport, she's not allowed to leave the country. My niece, she finished her GCSE, she had amazing grades. We tried to reward her and take her somewhere we cannot do that. She lost both of her grandparents. She cannot go and see them. She cannot go back to the country that she fall in love with. The sadness going on in Somali community is just unmanageable. It's just beyond your imagination. Unless you go through it, you cannot imagine what's happening with people. So that was our experience. My sister is not allowed to have passport. She's got 3 girls who are not allowed to leave the country. Her older one, she's 17 now, so she's the only one who's got a chance now. My sister is not working at the moment because what's happening with the whole wide world, and she's like looking after those children, and she cannot afford to get another legal whatever it is and get a solicitor and get the passport for her daughter. So this is just affected the whole family. We are 5 sisters, all have children, all have young daughters. And we try to get the social service, when they were coming to our house, they were asking us for education. We said, okay, listen, you're the one who is investigating people. You need to go and get your knowledge and your facts straight. Because they were like, how many times FGF, how many times times, and how many times that? I said, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to hear it. I had FGM myself. And it was not my mom's choice. My mom did not want it. It was a grandparents and grand aunties and other people. And my mom was so against it. But that time, we didn't know any better because people were practicing that time. And I never wished for anybody. I hated it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to mention. The mention of the name of FGM makes me sick. And I'm going through that, and people are making it like it's it's just a joke for them. Okay, taking people's children away. If they want to do something, if the government want to do something, they need to educate people and tell them this is what you don't need to do, and they need to make it people easier because the stress people go through, they lose their lives, and it's not something easy at all.
Thank you very much for sharing your story and your sister's story. Actually, it was very, very emotional, actually, hearing about it. I have been a community worker for the past 10 years, and I have not came across any case. I think our community are very good in hiding. They're not sharing the story wide and public because more people like yourself who come publicly and speaking about this, we will put together and we can speak against the injustice that is happening. So thank you very much. Our third speaker is here.
It's supposed to be Netmore, but Netmore? I don't know if she's online. Okay.
Right. She's not? Okay. Shall we leave some time now to ask question and answers, please? Anybody who has questions to our 2 speakers and to Zainab as well, you guys are welcome. If you have anything to add, that would be great. Yes. There's a lady here. Can't see the name. I will unmute you. Hi. Hello.
Hi. Is it me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi. It's Preet here. Horrific stories, eh? I mean, we've had so many now, and it's still so distressing to think of what people go through for no good reason apart from prejudice and misinformation, etc. I was thinking whether there's anything practical we can do to help people if they're not able to get legal aid, and is there a possibility or a way we could fundraise to help people to pay for solicitors' costs, for example. I don't know how possible that might be or who could possibly do it, but I think it's something because people are being brave and are speaking out about what has happened to them. I think anybody who has a heart is going to be sympathetic and might well put their money where their mouth is. So I think it's something we should maybe discuss and consider.
Zainab will be your best person to contact.
Zainab, the answer to everything.
Well, you know, even these ladies, they've been taken to court, these families, and it's really difficult to get legal aid. Yeah, it's most of the time it gets refused, and then they have to pay themselves, and they wanna try and clear their name or contest the order. But that's another fight on our hands. Is they've been accused of FGM, put on an order, and they can't get the legal aid to fight it, and then they don't have the funds. So yeah, that is a good initiative. But yeah. So yeah.
Hi, sir.
Just to comment on that, I suspect, quite apart from the funding issue, a major problem would be to find a lawyer who hasn't been totally brainwashed by the erroneous anti-FGM propaganda. I'm thinking back to the case of the poor Ugandan lady that Zainab and I have discussed a lot, where it appears that even though there was a defense lawyer, the defense was totally ineffective. There was no commitment to it at all.
But hopefully there are lawyers and solicitors who are willing to take this case. Hi, Ollie.
Yes, I think on the back of that as well, it's a good thing that we might want to look at fundraising and helping the families legally, to find the right. But I think, in my view, I mean, Zainab knows where I'm coming from with all of this. In my view, I think we need, for community, because I'm from an FGM affected community, right? And I think it's high time we start naming and shaming organizations, right? Because the only way we have come this far is because some of us have put our jobs on the line, right? To question things. I mean, for me, I've been fired at work because I questioned some of the things, right? But think everybody who is brave or, to talk to this question, there are three around the foundation. The first thing about the funding is the misleading narrative around that the activists, that's called celebrities, FGM, cash have been put out there. So even these families, the Uganda lady and the other three, disappointed that some people would consider there was no need for that conviction. And when we have volcanoes mentioned 2 days ago, there's the fact that because what is find that particular organization that's that they peers, they're writing, they're not admitting to what they've done with the narrative. If we have to before people point at that, people who have already been brainwashed, they'll point at that and say, well, there is no, people have been discriminated against. You know how the system works, let's be honest, right? And then also for family, like the two people who have given their own accounts of the system, I can say outrightly that I'm sure there are thousands of families out there who have been impacted, but they're not brave to come out and speak, because we also need to understand that within our own community, what the system has succeeded in doing is they've raised celebrities, right, among our communities who've ended up affirming the discrimination by claiming that. I mean, I was on Twitter yesterday. I was actually blocked by that particular celebrity, but I was on Twitter yesterday where I think it's Nimco, where she was actually claiming that FGM was, we need to stop FGM happening in UK. I'm a social worker. And I stand clearly to say FGM cannot happen on the soil of the United Kingdom because the safeguarding system is too robust for that to happen. That I know for a fact. And if FGM is happening, like I always say,
does she have any evidence to support her claim?
Well, she blocked me because I literally just asked her. I said, "Do you want to show me where FGM has happened in the UK?" And literally, I couldn't see her whatever it means, so she's blocked me. But what I'm trying to say in all of this is, we can choose to raise funds. I don't know how it will be done because there's still going to be a question mark around how we raise the fund. We can do it publicly on GoFundMe and stuff, but I think people are so brainwashed that no matter how you want to talk about FGM, right? Before people will start listening to this type of narrative from hidden voices, I think the brainwashing is just too much. Yes, eventually we'll get there, but it might just be a long way to freedom. Long road to freedom.
If we have people from the African community speaking out publicly in a different forum, say Facebook and Snapchat, and they getting more followers to share the same opinion, I think you can get people to start listening.
Wait and see.
I mean, I didn't even know until I met Zainab. I had no idea, even though I have been a community worker for 10 years, working with the Somali community. I had no clue.
And Muna, like the work that we do, Hidden Voices UK, our campaign, we do it voluntary. We contribute a bit of money to do our website. I spend at least 2 days a week just working on cases with families. We write, we campaign, we do this events because we want people to see the other discourse of the narrative. And for me, it's the anti-FGM discourse has caused more harm to our communities. They have sat around the table and they've, with safeguarding professionals, and they have given misrepresentation. Now, I was one of the first anti-FGM activists back in the late 80s. I took part in the first documentary, and I got involved with the anti-FGM movement because I was passionate about girls' rights, and I wanted our community to change the views. And I felt that we made that change. But then after I came back and I saw how the laws are affecting our community and they've been racially profiled. So, is racism, is injustice, being referred to safeguarding wrongly, being accused, we are British citizens, we have the freedom to travel and like anybody else, and being stopped at the airport because you go into Africa. So when I saw all this, I started getting people and ladies together, and I said, look, you need to share your stories. And they looked, powerful too is the media. So we have to go on the media. And when we did the Victoria Derbyshire show at the beginning, I think it was last year, it was 6 months of working with Victoria Derbyshire and showing them all the things that the cases that we have collated about the woman who's had FGM orders and being referred to safeguarding. So this is a lot of work. We can actually do a lot more if we did get donations of money, because then we can get other people to do the work in the campaign, and because there's lots of support. It's these ladies, they need a solicitor, they contact us, and I have to get a solicitor for them. Then the emotional distress and telling them, they say they can't believe this has happened to them. They heard about this, but they didn't know that it would happen to them. So this has happened to thousands, and the anti-FGM organizations, the activists, they would never debate with us because we debate in terms of the data, yeah? And they would not come and sit with us in our events, which we've invited them many times, but very rarely they will come and sit with us. They go and do all their media stuff of misrepresentation, portraying women that's had circumcision as sexually dysfunctional as well, and that we have this intense birthing problems. All this is just propaganda. And the young activists back in the 80s, they actually made them believe that they were dysfunctional, sexually as well. That they said, oh, when you have children and when you have your defibrillation, you're not gonna, this is what's this is how it's going to be for you. So some of these girls didn't even want to get married and have children because the activists put that in their head. And then they put that in the mainstream media. And they were like, Leighton, why did they do this? And the word FGM, just to finish a little bit, is female genital mutilation. It was a word that was replaced originally in the law. It was female circumcision. And then they replaced it with FGM. And that was part of the feminist movement. They did that with the activists, with the anti-FGM movement. And they needed a stronger word to get their message across. And I remember that name being endorsed, and some of the girls who were part of the campaign, they said, look, don't call us mutilated. We're not mutilated. Don't use this word. It's degrading. And they continued. They goes, no, it's female genital mutilation. It's barbaric. And these were feminist ladies who stories. But one of the things is, I hate the word, it's degrading, it's a word that we use as well. It's constantly used, FGM. And, you know, the doctors and the gynecologists don't call them mutilated, but we have the activists and the movement saying they're mutilated. It's a very degrading word. And one of the things is also to campaign against that word and to get that name changed and get people to endorse a different word when we're talking about female circumcision. So I think there might be other people that want to talk or say a comment on the regarding this. So because it's you know, when we look at the whole discourse, the whole FGM thing, it's not one subject, it's many different subjects. That's misconceptions, and the mainstream media are just constantly listening to other people, but they're not listening to the community. They listen to the people who get the major funding. So of course they're going to misrepresent the community, but we need our community to talk, and we've got to encourage them to talk to the media. So yes.
Hi, you can ask a question. Sorry, I can't see the name. I need the glasses.
Oh, sorry. It's Angela Gorman from Black African Mothers. I've known Zainab for a long time. I live in Cardiff, and I was a nurse at University Hospital for many, many years. I have to say, growing up, I'm in my early 70s now. Growing up, my perception of the Somali community in Cardiff, and I stress my perception of it, was based on what I was told, obviously. And that was that all females went through circumcision. Mm-hmm. It was only when I became involved with the community, with Zainab, and I attended meetings and we did a lot of work together, that when I went out to speak to groups of people about what we do, often I was asked about FGM. I was asked about, the community in Cardiff, and I said, I've spent a lot of time with the groups, with the women, and I can give you my assurance, as far as I can, that this practice has died out in Cardiff. And I said, I know from what Zainab has said, that if people speak, teenagers from the Somali community, if you talk to them about it, they don't know what you're talking about. This is Zainab who said that to me. There have been events at Fitz Allen School. Are you all from Cardiff, or are you all from across the country? Well, Fitz Allen has, I think, 70% pupils from the BME community and a significant number from the Somali community, Zainab?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. And they put on an event a couple of years ago that I was invited to. It was extraordinary that the teenage boys and girls were stood up discussing the topic without any hesitation at all. I was astounded. And that's what we need. But there are still people of my generation, and probably a bit younger than that, who still have this perception of the community. And the only way to change that is by being out there and discussing it openly and help people. That's the only way you're going to do it. Because if I hadn't become involved with the community, I would still have that perception.
Thank you.
It has to sort of dilute down now and disappear completely over the years. It's a lot of people still have that.
I think it's sorted now, so because some guys quite serious, especially the summer holidays coming and people will be traveling, so more and more family will be encountering that. But if these anti-FGM campaigners are getting a lot of funding, so they do have a bigger platform and wider reach because they have been given that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a.
Probably education. Education is the answer to all the majority of these problems. About 10, 11 years ago, I went to Mali, and everywhere I went, there were huge posters put up the UNFPA, and it was pictures of girls saying, "Please don't cut me." They're huge. There's a lot of campaigns in countries that you wouldn't think of really, but there it was. I was amazed. As Zainab knows, I went to Somaliland 8 years ago, and everywhere I go, even if I'm not asked about it, I try my best to add a comment saying what my experience is based on my contact with the community.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to add a comment or a question? Yes, sir. Sorry, guys, I can't see the name. It's too small. Yes, sir. I will unmute you. Yes, I ask you to unmute.
Yeah, it's I think it's a very difficult issue in the sense that you have people who have the wrong perception of a particular community. And these perceptions will then go on to formulate policies about those communities.
Mm.
Now, the way I see it is that if we wait for those people to come and tell us what is happening in our communities, that's a big problem. I think I'll go along with the last speaker who was saying it's about education and having that trust with those people who are in power. The only way we can do it is for our communities to have a strong organization, strong people who can actually argue and counter what is being spread. I'm not on all these social media and so forth, but I hear a lot of people, there's a lot of things which are being said, and a lot of them, they don't reflect what our real life experiences are. It's somebody who thinks when they see a big black man and say, no, I think I'm afraid of him, or he's very frightening. I think he has got something on him. So it's that perception. But it is our responsibility. It is our responsibility. It is the responsibility of the community, the elders, to formulate an organization which will then counter that. If we are going to be serious with protecting girls and women, I mean, the stories which we have had this afternoon, those are harrowing experiences, and nobody, I don't think we have got a heart would want to listen to those stories. They are really, really terrible. And I think those people who have said they are very, very brave. But that's the way I see it. And we can then fundraise to try and counter that. If we don't do it, we are going to continue hearing all these lies because somebody doesn't like the Somali community, or doesn't like a community from certain particular countries, or doesn't like the black people, something like that. we have to stand up ourselves and fight it. If we don't, they are not going to come and rescue us. That's the way I see it. So the onus lies with us in having a strong agenda, a strong leadership, so that we can actually stand up to these people and tell them that, no, you are telling lies. How can you come and tell me the statistics in my house? You just somebody from outside, when I'm actually inside the house, you tell me this is what is happening in your community. How dare?
Yes, thank you very much. That was a very valid point. Exactly. Somebody else want to speak? Salah? Salah, Saliha? Yes. And you too? Right, I asked to unmute. No?
Hi everybody, can you hear me?
Yes.
I am Fala here. I mean, these stories are just, echoes my own experience, how the child protection industry is practically here constructing the crime it sort of claims to combat by fostering fear and suspicion. Look, I think it's just, listening to this is just so heartbreaking, and I think the focus is key here. If our cause is just and should be supported, I think it's time now. We need to start engaging in the battle of ideas to influence public opinion, and because there has been successful battles and social improvements that came about in faiths and stats, and I think it's now there's a slice of the population that needs to be affected. Here. So I just wanted to put that quickly and just run off. But this is really amazing to see this. And hi to everybody. I'm gonna have to run.
It sounds as if the person is outside.
Hi, did you guys hear me or no?
No.
Was that?
No.
Did you hear what I've just talked about?
No.
Okay, hi, it's Ayan Salah here. You guys can hear me, right? Okay. I mean, this story sort of echoes my own experience. I mean, the child protection industry is constructing the crime it claims to combat here by fostering fear and suspicion, suspicious. I think it's great. Somebody mentioned about the fundraising and so forth. I think it's the focus here is key. If our cause is just, guys, and should be supported, I think now is the time to start engaging in the battle of ideas to influence public opinion. And that a lot of people are not, I mean, the significant size of the population that needs to be persuaded. So, we need to start a battle here, and all battles and social improvements all came about in faiths and stats. So platforms like this are great because not only can we share ideas and our struggles and our voices, we can also highlight, those groups of women and children who are being targeted by, culturally and racially biased legislations and policies. So I just wanted to make a quick input and run off and just say hello to everybody that I haven't seen for a while. Hello. Bye.
Thank you very much. That was very, very interesting points. Right, my time is up, so I would need to rush back to my babies. So thank you very much, Zainab, for inviting me to this wonderful event. On my part, I will definitely start speaking up more about what is happening to our families. I think it's very, very important that we start making noises now, because it's disturbing, to be honest, that what is happening to women and children. So thank you very much, everybody. I have to go. Bye.
I'm going to over now, so we haven't finished the session, so I'm just going to be hosting. So if anybody wants to continue to ask questions, so yes. Okay.
Can I have another comment, Zainab?
Yes.
It's about this issue of perception, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to turn it on its head, because there are perceptions that the community, the Somali community here, have of us as white Welsh women. And if you remember, back before I went to Somaliland, we were having meetings at my home.
Yes.
And on one occasion, during the meeting, my husband came home. And no sooner, I said, oh, it's my husband, then the group, the women in the group started gathering their things together. And I said, we haven't finished the meeting yet. And somebody said, but your husband's home, you've got to go and cook his tea.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, if he doesn't cook his own tea, he won't eat. So there's a perception amongst the community that we are there to cook for our husbands. And I know I'm not being flippant with this. What I'm saying is that there are perceptions, two-way perceptions, that are all wrong.
Mm.
And somebody said that would not happen in one of our families. You have to stop what you were doing and cook his tea. And I said, well, it doesn't happen here. So there was this automatic perception that I would have to stop what I was doing in order to cook the tea for my husband. And so, as I said, I'm not trying to be flippant, but it goes two ways. That everybody has perceptions about other communities that they're not familiar with.
Mm.
And it's about breaking down those barriers to, and as you know, Zainab, I do everywhere I go, I talk about this and try and convince people that this is not happening. But I think also, that it's a two-way thing, this perception. And as I said earlier, education and communication has got to be. And I would say, I don't know, but I've had quite a lot of communication with what used to be the Department for International Development, which has now been taken over by the Foreign Office. But there are funds there. It's a case of getting them. And one of our MPs here in Cardiff is now what was the shadow Minister for International Development. Maybe we should try approaching the MPs to see if there are funds available rather than actually go out and fundraise. Whether there could be a pot of money there that can be accessed fairly quickly.
Yeah. Because we do need to, there's so much work to do in this area, and we do need to get funds and donations, because this will help the family, the mothers, the families who have been affected by the propaganda and and also FGM orders, being placed on FGM orders. There's a lot of one-to-one support that is needed. There's only so much.
Fairly quickly, though, don't you? You need the funds fairly quickly.
Yeah.
As soon as possible.
Yeah. So hopefully, after this we'll have a discussion about that, Angela. Sure, we'll hopefully meet up and have a cup of tea, or we could do a one-to-one Zoom.
The thing is, it's difficult fundraising at the moment, isn't it?
Right. I just want to ask anybody else if they want to ask any questions. Was it Mike? Right. So, Mike.
Can you unmute?
Okay, so. Hi, Mike, can you hear me?
Sorry, I tried to unmute, but I didn't quite hit the button.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make a detailed comment picking up on something you said, Zainab. Since the COVID lockdowns and all that has dominated our lives, there is one theme which absolutely dominates the mainstream media, and that is mental health, which has never had such a high profile before by any means. And what you were referring to is psychological damage done to young girls by the anti-FGM narrative and agenda. And this is quite clearly a mental health issue. So in which the psychological damage probably is potentially far more damaging lifelong than any potential physical damage for whether or not the girl has been circumcised. And possibly the present emphasis on mental health could be a hook to hang some activity and some publicity on.
Yeah. Well, we heard the story of the girl who was, she basically gets so emotional when she tells her story and what she's going through with the FGM order, FGM protection orders. So this has damaged lots of families mentally, psychologically. The whole campaigns, the anti-FGM campaigns are doing more damage to our communities. And people are needing support. And I mean, it's not the activists that's providing support, they're the one that's causing the misinformation. So, right, okay.
There's Fatima from Scotland. She wants to ask a question.
Oh, okay. Who's from Brit?
Fatima.
Sorry, Fatima has been waiting for a while.
Yeah.
Hold on. Right, sorry, Brit.
No, I'm saying Fatima has been waiting for a while, so perhaps you should take her before me.
Okay, so with
Thanks.
Oh, Fatima here. Okay, hold on. Right. Okay, Fatima, would you like to talk? No.
She's muted herself.
I think she's muted.
Let me try and call her and see if she.
Okay, Fatima, could you hear me? Or I think she's muted herself.
She's unmuted now.
Shall I speak then?
Oh, she muted again.
Okay. Fatima, can she hear me or she can't?
It has to be properly organized what we have.
Okay. Fatima, can you hear me? I'm not hearing Fatima at all. Okay, Bruce, do you want to talk and we can come back to Fatima?
It's how to become more effective, more influential, and while I agree that obviously education is an aspect of that, we are up against an industry that is dominated by propaganda.
Yes.
Yeah, and anybody who has publicly trying to Anybody who has publicly tried to challenge this narrative know how difficult it can be, because public perceptions are what people have been fed for the last 10 years very actively. And we all know that negatives sell very well. But I think that the work that Zainab and Samia and other people here have done has been fantastic. And they've been able to get a platform because they are women from communities who have traditionally had FGM, for want of a better word, Zainab. And I think Zainab has now got a platform called Hidden Voices. And I'm sure could do with help, people who are willing to help, to speak, to do all sorts of work that is necessary, both behind the scenes and in front of the cameras, because getting on the media doesn't happen without somebody contacting the media. Getting an article written doesn't happen without somebody writing it. And Zainab is doing a phenomenal amount of work, almost single-handedly. But I think Hidden Voices could be the forum through which people could organize and possibly fundraise. I can and do my bit through in writing, but a white woman is never going to get the same response as somebody from the diaspora or somebody from what was a practicing community. And I think there is loads of scope for that to be developed through Hidden Voices. So that would be my penny worth for now, because I think we need to do something more concrete than, learning about it.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, before you leave, Zainab, Yemi has asked a question about Professor Allison. Do you want to respond to her in the comment section?
Sorry, can I apologize? I left the meeting for a moment to go to the toilet and I didn't hear the comments. So, the comments are in the chat section. I'm sorry to leave you at a crucial point.
That's directed to you, Alison.
So the question directed to me was, sorry, I'm looking.
What's your take with regards to FGM? Yeah.
So I'm looking for it in the chat. Is it?
So yeah, I'll tell you where it is. The question is from Yemi. What is the view of Alison McFarlane, who is a professor and lecturer with passion on FGM?
Well, I mean, the things I think there's no evidence from the statistics. The fact that these organisations are on a roll and they've been set up and people are funding them, and they're not actually listening to what's happening on the ground, and there's no evidence. They're misquoting statistics to contradict what you were saying about, and not only the fact that you don't practice it, but that people are getting such awful experiences. But there's no statistical basis. But I mean, the organisations, if you've got an organisation, you want to keep it going and keep it funded and keep telling the same story. And it's very worrying because that people who are, telling this are now in very influential positions, which makes it, that it's really important you get your voices heard, because people who've got in influential positions, because, okay, the campaigning they were doing 20 years ago may have been right 20 years ago, but it's doesn't relate to what's happening now, does it?
No.
And how, and it's a whole question of how to put the information together. Have you spoken to Saffron Carlson in Bristol? Again, work she's been doing again has sort of been documenting the fact that what all the that people have been putting a message. So telling practice nurses and social workers that if you're taking your children on holiday to Somalia, it must be to get them cut. And then they're worried that somebody who's over them is going to say, "Oh, you're negligent. You let this girl go," and but they're sort of unwilling to hear. But obviously, so there's organisations to continuing to be funded to put about misinformation, which is very worrying.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, after that people are invited to number 10 on International FGM Day to tell these stories, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about your when they misquote your data, Alison?
I'm very annoyed, but when I pick up on it, I try to respond, but it's quite difficult because it's sort of wired into things, and as an individual, I don't have the influence that these organisations have.
Yeah, and even the solicitors, when I support families with FGM orders and I go into court, I have to tell the solicitors, the legal solicitors as representing the local authority, could you please look at Alison McLaren report that she wrote in the British Medical Journal. So, you know, they follow the propaganda, but then they look at your stuff and they're like, oh, so there's a bit of confusion because a lot of people don't know your side of the story because the activists constantly misquote your data. Sorry, yes, Ollie.
Any suggestions about how I might
right,
get the message across again?
Listeners, we're trying to get this one sorted.
Welcome.
Yeah,
There's something in the British Journal of Midwifery, and I have to say that I intended to reply to it. And
thanks for joining us on the program. As you must have seen, that is the untold damages of FGM protection orders organized by Eden Voices UK. You can search them or follow them or ask further question. The last speaker right on there is McFarlane, Alison McFarlane. That was actually the person who wrote the report that the government seems to be using, or the report the government used to bring up that discriminative policy, which is affecting the ethnic minorities, the ethnic communities. We don't call us minorities again. We call us communities. So the ethnic communities, especially those from the African community. We'll be stopping right on there. Thanks very much for staying right on for us. We were meant to stop at 4 p.m., but people asked us to push it forward so that they could get more from the conference. Our other programs, that is Last Born Reload, will be coming on shortly. So please do stay right on here with us. I'll see you. I'll see you. Look for your own people now. The agreement, you're going to look for your people. So on that note, we'll be, I think that's the question of your coming together, we can't find it. You can't be telling me what to do with your program at this.
We cannot live except thus mutually we alternate, aware or unaware, the reflex act of life. And when we bear our virtue outward most impulsively, most full of invocation, and to be most instantly compellent, certes there we live most life, whoever breathes most air and counts his dying years by sun and sea. But when a soul, by choice and conscience, doth throw out her full force on another soul, the conscience and the concentration both make mere life love. For life in perfect whole and aim consummated is love in sooth, as nature's magnet heat rounds pole with pole.
Right. Thank you, Vora, for joining us. We're just trying to get that one under control. Unfortunately, Lastborn Reload will not be able to go ahead today because of the inavailability of our presenter. So please do join us tomorrow. Remember, the time is 5:45 every Sunday. We've got some packages for you tomorrow, as we will be having a guest on our show, Consciousness, a very powerful one, and it's going to be about the issue of Nigeria and the ongoing challenges, actually looking at where we started and how we got to where we are today. So please do stay on with us and join us tomorrow. Remember, at 5:45, and that is UK time. Thank you very much. We'll catch up with you then. Stay blessed.